Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If I could have your attention, I would like to make an announcement. I'm Jean Culpepper. I directed tonight's play. The circumstances surrounding our production are a little unusual. I was flattered when Mr. St. John, who wrote Murders in the Air, as you probably noticed on your program, Heir is spelled H-E-I-R, as in Murders in the Air. Get it? Yes, anyways, as I was saying, I was flattered when Mr. St. John contacted me and asked me to direct his play's premiere production. Actually, it was a work in progress. He made changes and rewrites throughout the whole rehearsal period. While it was very exciting to take part in a brand new work, it put quite a strain on me, the playwright, and the cast.
You got that right.
Hush, Christian! Action remain unseen and unheard until the play begins. Sorry about that. The fact is, the cast and I are feeling quite nervous about the show tonight because, well, it's not quite finished. Oh, don't worry, we're going to go on. The show must go on, as somebody once said. I don't know who said it, but I'd love to get my hands around their neck. Anyways, the play isn't quite finished. You see, it's a murder mystery, and most of the characters have great motives to kill. The fact is, Mr. St. John couldn't make up his mind who should be the killer. In fact, he wrote several different endings in which the various suspects were revealed to be the murderer. We performed them all for him, and he still couldn't decide. As we grew closer and closer to opening night, the tension in the air, that's A-I-R, grew so thick you could cut it with a knife. It got so bad that Mr. St. John had what I feel sure to prove to be a temporary breakdown. The reason he is not here with us tonight is because he is currently under heavy sedation in a very nice place, surrounded by soft walls and lots of padding. Some people have all the luck. But the cast and crew and I are here, and we are determined to put on an entertaining show for you, even if it kills us. That's just a figure of speech, of course. But this brings me to my main point of my being up here, to announce that you're going to have to help us. If you look in your program, you'll see that we've inserted a loose slip of paper, a ballot of sorts. As you watch the first act, you'll discover which characters have the motive to murder someone. During intermission, we needed you to take your ballot from your program and mark which character you think is the murderer. We will collect them and tally them quickly, and for the second act, we will perform the scene Mr. St. John wrote that has the character the majority of you chose to be the murderer. At least that's what we hope what will happen. It got very confusing during rehearsals.
It's a wonder we didn't kill the playwright.
Quiet! Sorry. Well, we might as well get started. I've saved myself a seat there in the front row to follow along in the script, in case things get shaky, which they won't, but just in case. Are you ready, cast?
Ready as we're gonna be.
Then let's do it. Lights, please.
Mr. Starkweather's asthmatic condition makes the merest mote of dust potentially lethal.
I served as Mr. Starkweather's housekeeper for many years before you came along. I don't need you to tell me how to do my job. You brought the coffee?
Yes, ma'am. It's right here.
Go back to the kitchen and help Minerva with the rest of the refreshments.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Starkweather gave very clear instructions that he wishes to have everyone present in the drawing room at 8 o'clock sharp. I'll ask Benson first to fetch the guests from their rooms.
Mr. Starkweather will be ready. I'm coming, Mr. Starkweather.
I don't got all the cars parked in the garages like you told me.
As I told you, oh, I waste my breath. You're drinking water all over the foyer of this. I've told you a million times that servants are not supposed to enter through the front door.
I reckon I forgot, Mr. Pensioners. Besides, it's raining out there.
I am aware of that. It now looks as if it has been raining in here as well, thanks to you.
You're welcome.
Go back out the way you came and maneuver yourself around to the back door.
Well, I don't know, but I suppose I'm gonna find out.
When the final guest, young Mr. Simon, arrives, I'll summon you so he can park his car.
Oh, good. While I'm waiting, I'll sit by the stove and see if I can grow gills.
Don't be impertinent.
How can I be if I don't know what it means?
Just do as you're told. Go to the kitchen and wait there until I call for you. Not that way. Have you forgotten already that I told you to go around to the back door?
No, but I was hoping you have.
That man is an idiot.
I heard that.
Where do you want me to put this one, Minerva?
On the coffee table. Careful with them.
Here you go. I think everything's ready.
You think wrong. Place the cups on the saucers so all we'll have to do is pour the coffee.
Yes, ma'am.
The others are coming down. Miss Van informed me that Mr. Starkweather wishes the staff to be present as well.
He wants the servants here?
Precisely. Even Rufus. Had I been informed of that fact sooner, I would have ordered him to take a bath. He's been out in the rain, parking cars so filled up.
If you ask me, Noah's flood wouldn't help.
Be that as it may, I shall summon him and Mrs. Trent.
Why would Mr. Starkweather want the servants to be here?
Let me pull out my crystal ball and let you know. Nancy, do you remember what I told you when you first came to work here?
Yes, ma'am. Do as you're told and don't ask questions.
Exactly. Stick to that.
I will, Minerva. Oh dear, I never know what to wear on a special occasion. I suppose Uncle Simon inviting us.
Is a special occasion, isn't it, Jordan?
I suppose so, especially when you consider most of the time he treats us like lepers.
Think Simon treats like jungle cats?
Not lepers, Mother. Lepers! Get it. And yes, you look fine.
Thank you, son.
I'll tell you one thing. If we're ever to inherit this mausoleum, the first thing we'll do is call the Adams family and let them know it's on the market.
How the chickens, are we?
Minerva, we didn't see you and your attractive young helper there.
Nancy is a nice girl, and I intend for her to stay that way.
I'm sure I don't know.
I doubt that.
Son.
I believe that. Miss Fiona, why don't you take a seat and we'll bring you some coffee?
Coffee?
That sounds nice. It's a little damp in here. That's because it's a lot damp out there. How do you take it?
Mother prefers Swiss black. I like mine sweet.
Whatever.
Ooh, what's all your nerves?
These are delicious. Glad you like them.
You're looking very pretty tonight, Nancy.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, that makes me feel as old as great Uncle Simon. Call me Jordan.
She'll call you Mr. Starkweather, the way a proper maid should. If anyone were to call you by a different name, it'd be me, and you don't want to know which one I'm thinking.
Minerva, you never change.
Neither do you. More's the pity. Now go sit next to your mother.
Yes, drill sergeant.
Goodness, Kathy. I don't see how y'all can stand living out here in the boonies, away from fine restaurants and movies and shopping centers. Why, if I were you, I'd just sit down and weep.
It's not that bad, Paula. I stayed here during the week, but my apartment in town most weekends.
I'm so relieved to hear that.
I worked for a large corporation before Mr. Starkweather hired me to be his personal secretary. And believe me, this position is much nicer.
Well, look what we have here. 2 rays of sunshine to dispel the gloom. You look beautiful, ladies.
I swear, Cousin Jordan, you're a rogue and a charmer.
I try my best. Won't you join us?
You two can sit over there. You'll be safer. We'll bring you some coffee.
Thanks, Minerva. I'll take mine black.
Oh, load mine down with lots of cream and sugar. I must admit, I have an enormous sweet tooth. Maybe that's what causes the corn syrup accent. And how are you this evening, Cousin Fiona? What?
Oh, I'm very well. Thank you, Paula.
That's just peachy. I swear, I don't know why we don't see more of one another. It seems like the only time we get together is for somebody's funeral.
Well, aren't all funerals for somebody?
Shame on you. Don't be so morbid, Cousin Jordan. Anyway, I'm glad this weekend's an exception to the rule. For once, no one is dead.
So far, anyway.
That's okay, honey. You didn't spill it.
What did you mean by that remark, Jordan?
Oh, nothing. It's just that when you called to tell Mother and me that Great Uncle Simon wanted us to come down to Starkweather Mansion for the weekend, at first, I thought you were going to say he had passed on.
You wish. I started packing my new black dress.
It was a natural assumption. I mean, he is up in years and in bad health. I was relieved to find out the old boy's still with us, though.
Ha! Kathy, darling, I bet you know why Great Uncle Simon invited us here this frightful evening. Come on, tell.
Mrs. Van Zandt will go into the particulars, but I believe Mr. Starkweather wishes to discuss his will.
Really?
I'd appreciate it if you didn't drool on the hors d'oeuvres.
I was surprised, that's all.
Uh-huh. Where's Cousin Simon? Shouldn't he be here too?
When I contacted him last week, he said he could make it. Apparently he's going to be late. And the phones don't get any service out here, so if he called, it didn't come through.
Well, if we're going to discuss the will, he should be here. After all, he is Great Uncle Simon's own grandchild.
Yeah, and he'll probably get everything.
Excuse me a minute. I hate to interrupt. You guys are doing great. You really are. Folks, I suggested to Mr. St. John that these family relationships might be a bit confusing. He agreed. I was going to write a scene that explained everything. He was working on it until he snapped like a rubber band. So I'll just have to tell you. I think there also might be a family tree in the back of your program. So, here it is. Mr. Simon Starkweather, the old billionaire whom you'll meet shortly, married late in life and had a son, Simon Jr. Simon Jr. in turn married and produced one heir, Simon III, this college student who's late for the gathering. The original Mrs. Starkweather, Simon Jr., and his wife are now deceased. Old Simon's eldest brother, Paul, had a daughter, Bella, who married Lucian Thompson, an Atlanta businessman, and they had Paul as Paul, his wife, Bella, and Lucian are now deceased. Old Simon's younger brother, John, married and had a son, Ezra, who married Fiona, and they had Jordan. This is Jordan, but you guys already knew that. John, his wife, Ezra, are now deceased. I realize this is a lot of dead people, but if they had all been included in the play, the stage would look like a marching band and marching to the living room. Believe me, it was hard enough moving everyone about as it is. At any rate, old Simon is Fiona's uncle by marriage and Jordan and Paula's great uncle. That makes young Simon, Jordan and Paula cousins. Second or third cousins, I guess. I really don't get how that works. I hope that clears things up for you. Carry on, please.
We haven't the foggiest notion where we are.
I don't even know who I am anymore.
Marvelous entrance. Then, you're gonna entrance you.
What is it?
He'll probably get everything.
Who will?
Your cousin Simon.
Oh, yeah, I got it, okay. Yeah, and he'll probably get everything.
I'm very pleased with your investigation, Mr. Davis. I'll be glad to recommend you to my other clients.
Just doing my job, Miss Van Zandt.
Good evening, everyone.
I know we haven't met yet, but I've got a pretty good idea who you all are. Mrs. Starkweather and her son Jordan, right?
Yes, Mr.
Davis. Call me Mike.
I see. From what Miss Van Zandt just said, I take it you're some form of an investigator?
You got it, pal. A private cop.
I see.
Nice man here.
He's a detective, Mother.
A detective! How exciting! Do you know Sherlock Holmes?
No, ma'am. But I do know what you two ladies must be, though.
If you're a private investigator, I'd be surprised if you didn't.
That accent settles it. You're Paula Thompson.
You're 100% correct. I can't deny I'm from the deep south.
If you came from any deeper south, you'd live in Central America.
So that leaves you to be Kathy Collins. It's nice to finally meet you in person.
Me too, Mike. Mike and I have corresponded for some time by mail and fax on Mr. Starkweather's behalf.
Is the seat taken? No? I'll park it here.
And I expected it to be unobtrusive.
I sure will, as soon as I find a dictionary and look it up.
Just sit over there by the fire and keep quiet.
By the fire? Glad to. My backside's still kind of soggy.
What I had. If all is in readiness, Miss Van Zandt, I shall inform Mr. Starkweather.
Yes, thank you, Bensonhurst.
There's coffee if anyone would like some.
I could use some, Minerva.
How do you take it?
In a cup!
Black.
Miss Van Zandt, I understand Great Uncle Simon has asked us here to discuss his will.
That is correct. Frankly, I did not think it was a good idea. Mr. Starkweather's health is precarious at best and doesn't need the excitement. I advised him to communicate with you by mail, but he insisted on summoning you to Starkweather Mansion. I only hope he doesn't live to regret that decision.
Miss Withers is bringing Mr. Starkweather to join us.
Can I move now?
I'll be right over here if you need me.
To think I was once surrounded by presidents and kings. Can my world have shrunk to this? With a meager stack of iron and a handful of relatives. Simon! Where's my grandson?
We presume he's on his way, Mr. Starkweather.
Can't wait. Not enough time anymore.
Well, you're looking well this evening, Great Uncle Simon.
You lying boy are just a habitual liar.
I was only making pleasantries, Uncle.
Save your breath. You've always been a smooth talker, Jordan. But that doesn't cut any ice with me. You're a great opportunist, boy. I ought to know. I was once one myself at your age.
Then I guess it runs in the family.
You have a point. Well, Fiona, you look the same.
Why, thank you, Uncle Simon.
It wasn't necessarily a compliment.
Great Uncle Simon, you're awful.
At my age, and with my money, I can afford to say what I think, and I do. So how's my little Georgia Peach?
Little old me? Why, I'm just peachy, Uncle.
I make barf. Mr. Starkweather, would you care for some coffee?
He mustn't have it. The caffeine would keep him awake and it could affect his blood pressure. Sometimes the medications cause it to run a little high.
Apparently I won't be having it. You heard my keeper.
Yes, sir.
Everyone aspires to live to a ripe old age. And for what? To be kept alive by medicines and machines. To be kept from enjoying so much of life's little pleasures. Like a cup of coffee.
You mustn't excite yourself, Mr. Starkweather.
You see? I'm not even allowed to feel any strong emotions. You put it very succinctly, Lucas. Old age is a bummer. I could have searched my vocabulary extensively and never found such an apt description. A bummer.
Glad you like it.
According to my doctors, I won't have to remain a prisoner in this weak old body much longer. There's only one thing I hate to leave behind. My money!
Well, you know what they say, Uncle. You can't take it with you.
Yeah, that's what they said. So 7 years ago, I had Lois here to draw my will. I bet you're wondering how I provided for you, my aunt.
I, for one, must admit, I'm a teensy bit curious.
Teensy bit, eh?
I was afraid something like this would happen. Mr. Simon, really?
No, you can't breathe at all.
See what you've done.
Me? I didn't.
Somebody call an ambulance.
We can't. The phones are all dead. It's all right. We just need to feel pure oxygen for a few moments.
Tell them.
Very well. This is the will Mr. Starkweather was referring to. As you know, Mr. Starkweather has been a phenomenally successful businessman for many years now.
I'll say, he's been on the cover of Forbes magazine at least a dozen times.
Never ready.
He has the distinction of becoming one of the world's first billionaires.
20 years ago, I begged dear Edgar to advise Uncle Simon on his business investment, but he was too proud.
Dad had his pride, lots of pride, and very little money.
If I may continue, Mr. Starkweather's fortune is now worth in the neighborhood of $50 billion.
If I'd known that, I'd ask for a raise.
I won't go into the details of the will, but it essentially bequeaths $1 million to each of his household staff. They are Benson Hurst, his butler, Minerva Walker, his cook, Miss Trent, his housekeeper, Nancy Pollard, his maid, Rufus Jones, his handyman, and Miss Withers, his nurse.
Forget the raise.
Now that I've informed you of the will's contents,
Wait. What about the family? Don't they get anything?
oh yeah, the will goes on to state that the rest of his money is to be divided equally among his surviving relatives. They are his grandson, Simon III, his niece, Fiona Starkweather, and her son, Jordan, who share 1/3, and his great-niece, Paula Thompson.
Isn't that nice?
I always knew you'd do right by us, Uncle.
I know you got mad when Mama married a Southern boy, great Uncle Simon, but you two must have agreed on one thing. Blood is thicker than water.
All tell you than it is.
Now that I've informed you of the most contents, I have another announcement to make. As of tomorrow, this will become invalid.
Wait.
What does invalid mean?
It means no good.
Oh, I got a brother that's invalid.
This big Zant means we're not going to get the money, you fool.
Oh, guess we're buying that big screen TV I was thinking about, after all.
Sit, you two, Lois.
Why did you decide to disinherit us, Uncle?
Found a better use for my money, that's why. Oh, you're not left out entirely. Oh, we'll get $50,000 each.
$50,000 out of $50 billion.
Lois advised me it would be a good idea to leave you a little something. That way you'd be less likely to lose my new will.
New will?
Exactly. That's why I asked Kathy to stay over at Starkweather Mansion. To type it up nice and legal for my signature. Mr. Davis, as a disinterested party, shall be here to witness the signing. And Lois shall file it at the courthouse. Come on.
Mr. Davis says he's a detective. What did you hire him to do?
Mr. Starkweather hired me to conduct an investigation on the quiet. For the past 6 months, I've flown to a dozen or more foreign countries, checking out some of the world's most brilliant scientists. Some well-known, others who prefer to keep their experiments hush-hush. I succeeded in finding one in Belgium. Let's call him Dr. X, who agreed to help Mr. Starkweather do what he desires, which is to clone himself.
What?
All
No,
I
that's
say-
absolutely Tom!
Those blood and skin samples you had me prepare. The ones you said would be examined by specialists.
Oh, they were examined by specialists. Specialists in DNA.
I thought you were trying to find a cure.
I was. Not a cure for my various ailments, of course, but a cure for dying, and I did find it.
Cloning.
Precisely. Through modern science, I shall live forever!
It's not right.
That's neither here nor there. Let the moralists and politicians debate that question for decades to come. In the meantime, Dr. X, as Davis named it, shall be created a brand new me. Sit down with us! The lot of you seem displeased, not because of the morals, but because of your change in fortune. Too bad. Cloning is a very expensive process, and since the procedure I employ must be done in absolute secrecy. Nowhere, I will have a sizable fortune left over for the new to inherit. No doubt, I will become the first person to become my own heir. Withers, my blood pressure.
Yes, Mr. Simon. If you will excuse me, I need to take Mr. Starkweather's blood pressure.
Why don't you just take it right here?
Mr. Starkweather's arms are too frail for me to get a reading on them. This is an outside scan, made to go around the patient's thigh. It stands the pressure from the inflated cup feathers there. Mr. Starkweather has had enough excitement for one night and is going to bed.
I guess our meeting is concluded. Unless anyone has any questions.
I do. What the heck was that all about?
It's quite simple, Rufus. Great Uncle Simon was going to leave us all a fortune. But then he changed his mind. Instead, he's decided to clone himself.
What does clone mean?
It means to take some cells from a person's body and create a duplicate of the original.
They can do that? That's great. When the old Mr. Starkweather passes away, maybe I can get a job working for the new Mr. Starkweather.
The new Mr. Starkweather will have to be born and grow up. It goes against the laws of nature. How it has all been arranged. Once Dr. X has created the new life, the cells will be implanted into a host mother, who will carry the child to term. Host mother? Who?
Me.
Oh.
Why not? I'm young. I'm healthy. I'll make a good mother for little Simon.
How could you ever consider being a part of this travesty?
I'll be well compensated. Besides, have you ever known anyone else to give birth to a baby billionaire?
Uncle Simon is giving his money to a baby? In a manner of speaking? Yes. The new will places Mr. Starkweather's fortune into a trust fund, which I'll administer. I'll release the money to pay for Dr. X and his staff to perform the cloning procedure. After that, ample funds will be available to take care of Happy's needs in a child's upbringing and education. Once he is grown and properly trained to deal in high finance, the fortune will be turned over to him.
The kid will look, think, and act like Simon Starkweather. He could conceivably parlay those millions into trillions by the time he's an old man.
But for what purpose? To leave it all to another clone, then another and another? Where will it end? When there's a Simon Starkweather with enough money and power to rule the world? We didn't discuss it, but you might well be right. How could you condone such madness? I can see why she would. Miss Van Zandt and the Collins girl will be living like billionaires themselves off Mr. Starkweather's money. Money that should have gone to us and the family. And I bet you're going to get rich off this too, since you're a part of this scheme.
Not me. I did the job I was paid. My part's over. I'll take my very generous check and go home. Frankly, I don't care if the boss of the science fiction experiment works or not.
Well, you should be ashamed. You should all be ashamed.
I believe you've made your feelings quite clear, ladies. If you and the other servants will join me, I wish to speak to all of you in the kitchen. We'll clear after you finish. I trust you'll ring if you require anything else.
It might be kind of nice. Here's a pitter-patter little feet around the house.
Oh, shut up, Rufus. Kathy and I will retire to my room. You might as well begin typing up the new will tonight. I'll advise you on how to put everything into the proper legal terms.
Sure, Lois. The sooner it's finished and signed, the better.
Hey, wait a minute. How come nobody asked me if I wanted to carry the baby? I could do it as well as she can. You're Mr. Starkweather's blood kin, Paula. It wouldn't be proper. I guess it would be kind of tacky.
Proper? You're about to conduct an experiment that makes Frankenstein look like an amateur. And you're worried about being proper.
Cool it, kid. Before you burst a blood vessel. Mr. Starkweather has made up his mind. And I get the feeling whenever Simon says, people do.
Succinctly put, Mr. Davis. Kathy?
I'll go upstairs and pack. Once I witness the signing of the new will tomorrow, I won't have any reason to hang around. Night.
We were robbed.
We were?
Yes, Mother. The great Uncle Simon dangled a fortune in front of our noses and then snatched it away.
That was mean.
Mean, that man is a monster. Didn't you see the evil glint in his eye? He enjoyed pulling the rug right out from under our feet.
At least he's leaving us 50,000.
To him, that's nothing more than tossing a dime to a beggar. And he did it just so that we won't contest his new will. You heard him.
Yeah.
I wish he were dead. I wish that old goat would drop dead tonight.
It would serve him right. If Uncle Simon did die tonight, we would get all our money, wouldn't we, my dears? We could play a game of raise
Heading for your thoughts. That's all I can afford to pay for now.
Mr. Starkweather,
It's Jordan, remember?
I thought I would have gone to bed.
Oh, I was going to turn in, but I got an urge for a midnight snack.
I'll fix you something.
Never mind. What are you doing up?
Mrs. Trent sent me in here to make sure the fire screen is properly closed so no sparks pop out on the router.
And burn Starkweather Mansion to the ground? Maybe that wouldn't be such a bad idea.
You shouldn't talk like that. You know Mr. Starkweather's an invalid. How could he?
You read my mind.
Jordan!
Ha! Gosh, you call me by my first name.
You mustn't even suggest such a thing. It's wicked.
Why should that surprise you? Everyone knows I'm the black sheep of the family. If it happened tonight, you'd have $1 million, and I'd have billions. Think of the good times we could have together.
Don't.
Admit it, it's a tempting thought.
No, it's not. It's a horrible idea.
Which part? Getting the money, or us together?
The part about the money. Nancy! I thought you were going to help me with the dishes. I want to make sure the French doors were locked. I see. And what are you doing in there?
I was coming to go down to get a snack, and I saw Nancy, and I stopped for a little chat.
If you're not careful, that appetite's going to get you into trouble one of these days.
Minerva, what are you doing with the knife?
Mincing onions.
At midnight.
I can't stand to have anyone see me cry. I thought I heard someone in here, and I came in to check. If you're still hungry, I can prepare you something.
Yes, Minerva. Anything you say, Minerva.
Finish checking, and then come help me in the kitchen.
Yes, ma'am.
Come on.
Hey.
Rufus, I heard someone come in.
It was just me.
So I see. Good grief, man. What are you doing?
It's like this. I remember chopping wood for the fire this afternoon before it started raining. But I didn't put the axe back in the shed. I forgot. I've been dismembering things a lot lately. To keep around with it, I've been just kind of bring it inside and dry it off so it don't rust.
That's fine. But why bring it to the living room? Besides, how many times do I have to tell you to use the back door?
As many as you want, I ain't counting.
I swear, Rufus. Just let me in. Go to the kitchen and have Mrs. Trent give you a towel.
I ain't waiting. Quit waiting.
I know that, to dry the axe.
Oh, right.
The back door.
That man had a brain. He'd be dangerous.
I heard that.
Heading for your thoughts. That's all I can afford to pay for now.
I came downstairs to get a breath of fresh air. What are you doing up this late?
Munchies? You ever heard?
No thanks.
So, did you and Miss Van Zandt finish the new will?
Yes, it's all ready, except for Mr. Starkweather's signature. I see you've calmed down. I wouldn't blame you if you hated me.
Why would I hate you? I would have made the same deal if I were in your shoes.
I'm sure you would, Jordan.
You know, Minerva was right. Being the mother of little Simon will be the next best thing to owning the billions yourself. But aren't you forgetting something?
What?
Little Tyke will need a dad, too. Someone to mold him and guide him into a perfect replica of Great Uncle Simon. A heartless, money-making machine.
You think so?
I know so. And who would be a better father figure than me? You're a very attractive woman, Kathy. It's business. Pleasure.
Get your crummy hands off me!
What?
You're getting cookie crumbs on my blouse. And by the way, forget it. If I decide little Simon is the father after he's born, I will pick a suitable husband then. I don't know who it'll be, but it won't be some sleazy, money-hungry, slimeball like you, Jordan.
I could kill you, you witch!
I wouldn't try it if I were you. Not with a detective in the house.
Aren't you finished in here yet? I need to make everything all right. Well, hurry up. Minerva needs you in the kitchen. Yes, ma'am. No, bottle. Someone left the French doors open. I'll close them.
Mrs. Kent, you gave me a fright.
I suppose I should be grateful you didn't shoot me. What on earth are you doing, roaming the house in the middle of the night with a gun in your hand?
Oh, don't worry. I know how to handle a gun. I couldn't sleep, so I thought I'd clean it. I was gonna look in the kitchen for some oil.
Well, I doubt you'll find what you need in there, unless you want to work with Crisco. Do you always carry that thing with you?
I take it everywhere I go. Daddy taught me to be a crack shot. I was 10. A girl can't be too careful.
Yes, well, I don't think you've anything to worry about at Starkweather Mansion. We're a monster town. No one ever comes out this way.
You've never had a burglary or a prowler?
No?
You know, since Great Uncle Simon is so sick and old, it's a wonder somebody hasn't tried to come in and steal something. With his bedroom being on the ground floor, why, anybody could just break in those French doors and walk into his room and do who knows what.
Like shoot him.
It could happen, but as terrible as that thought is, in his condition, how could he defend himself?
Well, I suppose he could stick Nurse Withers on them. That would frighten away any intruders.
You're just awful. But you know what? I would want to tangle with a woman. Where does she sleep?
In the room beyond Mr. Starkweather, so that she can hear him if he rings his bell for her in the night.
Let's see. If I remember correctly from when Mama brought me here once when I was a little girl, that room used to be a library, and the one beyond it was a parlor. Am I right?
Yes. When Mr. Starkweather became too ill to go up and down the stairs, the library was converted into a bedroom for him. Withers took the parlor.
So, they're the only ones who sleep downstairs.
Yes. The servants have their own quarters in the attic under the eaves. We have a staircase in the kitchen. Why do you ask?
Oh, just curious.
Excuse me, folks. I thought that little section of dialogue was kind of awkward. I suggested to Mr. St. John that he cut it, but he thought you guys need to get an idea of the layout of the house. He said, "What do you want me to do? Put a blueprint of Starkweather Mansion program?" Which I thought was kind of rude. He insisted I leave the dialogue in, so I did. But it's a bad piece of writing. I just wanted to let you know that I tried to correct it. Continue.
Yeah, I just want you to know that if you do that again, you're going to have to bring that script up on stage and play Mrs. Trent yourself.
Sorry.
So you're curious about the light of the house?
Yeah, I was just curious.
Well, you know what they say. Curiosity kills the cat.
Yes, well, if you'll excuse me.
Wouldn't it be ironic if someone did break in tonight? Of all nights.
My apologies. May I ask what kind of pills you just chewed about the room?
Didn't tell us. It's for my heart. I have a heart condition. Two.
They did tell me. Doesn't that speed up one's heart rate?
Oh, yes. My little heart is just pumping away.
Perhaps single doses would be sufficient. I assume overdose could be fatal.
Extremely fatal. Or am I being redundant? I suppose fatal is fatal. Just like death is death. Don't you agree?
Completely. One cannot be deader than someone else. Death longer perhaps, but that is the only comparison that comes to my mind. Might I inquire why you brought up medication into the living room?
Why, that's a very good question. Why did I bring them down here? Oh, I remember. I was going to show them to Miss Withers and see if she might have any free samples with her medical connection now.
But you said that your bottle was full already.
Oh, yes, but it never hurts to plan ahead. I had better pick them up.
Allow me to assist you.
Can I ask you something?
Be my guest.
Why are you carrying a wrench?
Oh, rich. Well, you see, I happen to remember that Miss Withers mentioned that she thought the valve of the gas heater was a little loose. I thought give it an extra turn or two.
How mechanical of you. We wouldn't want any gas to escape this room, would we?
Naturally not, but first things first, shall we?
I feel like a pigeon pecking popcorn.
Miss Withers. Side of left again. Left again.
Got it. They're just rolling everywhere.
Round objects tend to do that now.
Here's Withers.
Mrs. Stockweather. What were you doing on the floor with Bensonhurst?
Thinking on my spilled pills. I brought my digitalis. Please watch where you put your feet, my dear. Both of them.
I assume Mr. Starkweather has required an injection. Is there a problem?
Nothing I can't handle. His lungs seem to be somewhat congested. So I took him from his bed and set him back in his wheelchair. Then I gave him an injection of steroids to open up his bronchial passages.
My. Where's Uncle Simon be without you?
Dead. Without my help, his heart would have stopped beating long ago.
Speaking of which, was there something you wanted to ask Miss Withers, Adam? No, did you tell us?
Oh, yes, Miss Withers. I was wondering if you happen to have any free samples of digitalis you don't need. I have a heart condition and like to keep them handy.
I can see why you would. Yours tend to run out, don't they? I'm sorry, Mrs. Starkweather, but I don't have any spare drugs. Your uncle requires every pill he's got to keep him going.
Then we must clean them up. Please help me, my dear.
Okay.
Is this a private game or can anyone play?
Mr. Davis, we're picking up spilled pills.
Is that it? I thought you were holding a tiny little marble turn.
I'll pass.
Let me give you these, Mrs. Starkweather. I really must return to my duties.
And here are mine.
Thank you very much.
If you'll excuse me.
Miss Withers, how's the boss?
Bossy. A minute ago, he sent me to get the pitcher you a fresh drinking bottle. If I'm not back in a moment, he'll start wringing that handbell from me. See what I mean? I'll be right back, Mr. Starkweather.
I gather he rings for you a lot.
Incessantly. Then he stops ringing, Isabella, he's catched the bucket. Excuse me.
Spoken like a true member of the medical profession. What's with the wrench, Bensonhurst? Got some kind of problem I can give you a hand with?
Oh, thank you, sir. But no, it'll wait. I shall excuse myself.
Well,
You're up kind of late, Mrs. Starkweather.
I couldn't sleep. What about you, Mr. Davis?
Oh, I'm a real night owl. Besides, I was hoping young Simon Starkweather would show up. I haven't met him yet.
Sam's a sweet boy, but I do hope he's all right. I mean, the storm and all.
He may have pulled off the road to let it pass. It's starting to cloud over again. We could be in for another deluge.
Oh dear, I better go lie back down.
Good night again, Mrs. Starkweather.
Good night.
I'm coming, Mr. Starkweather. Oh, you're still here?
Yeah, just keeping an eye on things.
Oh, well, my patience.
You're up too, Mr. Davis?
Yeah, and I'm not the only one. There seems to be more traffic passing through Starkweather Mansion at midnight than goes down the interstate at rush hour.
I know what you mean. I've been hearing footsteps go past my bedroom door all evening. I'm not surprised, though. We could have guessed Mr. Starkweather's announcement would give his heirs a sleepless night or two.
Between us, Miss Van, this cloning business, how do you feel?
I'm a lawyer, Mr. Davis. I'm paid to think, not feel. Can Mr. Starkweather be cloned? Definitely. There's no doubt the technology exists. But should he be cloned? Let's just say I wouldn't want to be the first to challenge nature by creating another Lois Van Zandt.
Me too. I'm a simple guy. I've got enough to deal with in one lifetime. The sooner we get the signing over with and we can get back to the real world, the better.
The new will is finished. Mr. Starkweather can sign it first thing in the morning.
The old boy's still up. I heard that bell he was ringing, and the nurse was in here a minute ago.
Then it's no reason he can't send it now.
That's what I'm thinking. The people in this house are as tense as a bunch of long-tailed cats in a room full of rocking chairs. I know I'll do better once the boss's plan is a done deal.
I'll go up to my room and get the will. Why don't you let Mr. Starkweather know we're taking care of it?
Circuit breaker must have tripped.
But the storm passed hours ago.
I know. I don't like this. I don't like this at all. I'll find Bensonhurst and have him show me where the main breaker is.
Good. I'll let Mr. Starkweather know we're taking care of it.
Jewels of the trade.
It's all right, Mr. Starkweather. Mr. Starkweather?
Hello? Is anybody in here? This is Trent? Bensonhurst? Anybody?
Kathy? I think there's something wrong with Mr. Starkweather. I don't know where that nurse is.
Oh no. He hasn't signed the will yet. Has he?
No. Perhaps he just fainted. We need light. Mr. Davis is trying to... Mr. Starkweather! It's Mr. Starkweather! Help him!
What's going on? I heard
My God. I heard a scream.
He's dead. Someone slips a blood pressure cuff around his neck and pumped it up to maximum. 300 millimeters of mercury. Simon Starkweather has been strangled to death.
Wait, poor Mr. Starkweather.
say you and nearly everyone else in this room are right up there on the top 10 list. Let me check the bottom.
Those drops on his robe. Is it blood?
I'm not sure.
What else could it be?
I'll handle it. I'm the detective, remember? What can you tell us, Miss Withers?
After I brought Mr. Starkweather his pitcher of water and made sure he was breathing all right, I went to my room and lay down across my bed. A few minutes later, the lights went out.
I noticed that too.
Hi.
Mr. Starkweather started ringing his bell. I started lighting a candle. But when suddenly I was struck from behind by a heavy object, I must have blacked out. A few minutes when I came to, the lights were on and...
Yeah, we can take it from there.
Well, Mr. Davis, you seem to be in charge. What do we do now?
We keep trying the phones until we can get through to the cops. If the lines aren't up by morning, someone will have to drive into town and report there's been a murder at Starkweather Mansion.
Maybe the old man did himself in. Well, maybe not. No, Mr. Simon, you made it, and boy, we have a surprise for you.
Wasn't that the most diabolical murder ever? Don't you just love it? The way Mr. St. John's mind works. It's no wonder he went bonkers. Now remember, firstly, during intermission, we need you to take your ballot from your program and check off which suspect you think murdered Simon Starkweather. The usher will take them in the lobby and collect them up in here as well. In case you guys don't need to go get a drink of water or anything. Well, see you in 15 minutes. Let's back up. Sorry. I was making sure the cast knows what to do after they learn who will be the murderer at this performance based on the current ballots. There are a couple things that Mr. St. John intended to put in the second act once he made up his mind who would be the killer. Lines or actions that lead to this person's identity. The cast will work these into the show. I just wanted to let you know that so you can continue playing armchair detective. Well, I guess that's all. For now, anyways. Enjoy the conclusions of Murders in the Air.
Dead. I can't believe grandfather's dead.
Well, he is, Cousin Simon. He's the deadest person I ever saw. Funny you should say that. That's the nurse and I were discussing the degree of death and...
Mother, please. And he was murdered?
There's no doubt about it. You saw the body.
Poor grandfather. Had I gotten there sooner.
How do we know you didn't get here sooner? For all we know, you could have arrived hours ago, slipped into the house, killed the lights, moments before you killed Simon Starkweather.
That's ridiculous. Why would I kill him?
I'd say a third of a $50 billion fortune is a pretty good reason to knock somebody off. Mr. Starkweather had signed that new will.
But I didn't know about the new will. I wasn't here when grandfather revealed that crazy cloning scheme you told me about.
It would have been easy enough to hide outside the French doors and eavesdrop on the conversation.
Why would I hide? I was expected here. Besides, I told you what happened.
Tell me again.
All right. I had to creep on that long country road from town. Rain was lashing the windshield so hard I could barely see. The wind was snapping branches off the trees and flinging them against the car. It was like driving through a hurricane. When I came to the wooden bridge that spans the stream which flows around the estate, I had to stop. The stream had turned into a raging river and torn the bridge to pieces. Thankfully, I remembered a place about a mile from there where a tree had fallen across the street years ago. I used to play on it when I was a kid. I found it and managed to carefully walk across, even though the rising water nearly covered the trunk. Apparently, I got here just after poor grandfather was murdered.
That's a good story, but it sounds rehearsed.
Not nearly enough.
It's the truth, I swear.
Maybe, but I'm still not crossing you off my suspect list.
And just who else do you have on that list, Mr. Davis?
Everyone in this house, except this man's aunt, Miss Collins. They had a lot to gain when your grandfather had lived only a few more minutes. As it turns out, they're left out in the cold.
Especially me. Lois has other clients. Now I'm among the unemployed.
I'm sure once the estate is settled, we can arrange for you to be given a generous severance check.
Take it out of your portion if you like. Mother and I will pass.
So will I. Nothing personal, of course.
Of course.
What do we do now, Mr. Davis?
Something the story reminds me. Maybe could.
The way I see it, we all sit tight until daybreak. Then I'll have you show me the way to your car and drive me into town. I'll report what I know to the police, and we'll notify them that the bridge is out. My guess is the cops will fly in by helicopter. They'll need to get the body to the coroner's office, examine the crime scene, and take your statements. Once the homicide detective is assigned to the case, I'm out.
But you're a detective too, and you were right here when the murder occurred. You have a better chance of solving this murder than anyone else.
Sorry, but now that Mr. Starkweather is dead, I'm off the payroll. Once I give the big boys my statement, I'm finished.
I'll hire you to stay. I won't have the money to pay you until I get my portion of the inheritance. But if you're willing to wait,
You're on, kid. I figure you're good for the dough. Incidentally, that offer drops you down to the bottom of the suspect. Well, I might as well start earning my salary.
How can we help, Mr. Davis?
First, I want to question everyone as to their whereabouts when Mr. Starkweather was murdered.
Establish everyone's alibi.
Yeah. Also, I need to know anything all of you or the staff might have seen or heard during the last few hours that might lead us to discover the killer's identity.
Clues.
You got it. Motives, alibis, and clues. That's what a detective has to work with. The motives in this case are obvious. The other elements are not. But hopefully they will be by the time I'm finished.
that sounds like a good plan to me. So who do you want to start with, Mr. Davis?
Since you're paying the freight, call me Mike. How about you, Miss Thompson? Do you mind being first?
I'm awfully tired, but if I have to...
You don't have to, Paula.
What do you mean, dear?
I mean, Davis isn't a police officer. We don't have to tell him the time of day.
You're right, of course, Jordan. But why would you refuse to cooperate? Unless you had something to hide.
Look, don't you start accusing me of murder unless you can prove it.
Simon has a point. You're not going to tell the cops everyone cooperated except you.
All right. I'll answer your dumb questions. But first, I'm going to take Mother upstairs. She's getting up in years and she needs her rest.
Thank you much, Jordan. I'm not a spring chicken anymore, but I'm not missing my booze lunch either.
Don't get excited, Mother. Are you okay? Do you need your digitalis?
No, but if I did, there'd probably be 1 or 2 pills still on the sofa. I had a lot of accident with my pill box.
Come on. You can call for us when you're ready.
I assume you'll want to question everyone in private. You can wait in my room if you like, Kathy. I'd like to go over the oath will again, since it will remain the official one. Sure, Lois. Excuse us.
I'd like to stay. Since I wasn't here when the murder occurred, hearing everyone's statements will give me a clearer picture of what happened here tonight at Starkweather Mansion.
You're the boss now. but we need somewhere where we won't be overheard.
Well, you could always use grandfather's old office.
That should do. I'm particularly interested in what happened between the time Mr. Starkweather announced he was changing his will and the time his body was discovered.
How long was that exactly?
Several hours. Well, Miss Thompson, did you observe anything which occurred in that time frame that might help us?
I was very disappointed by Great Uncle Simon's announcement, as you might well imagine. I mean, I can understand why you might want to clone Tom Cruise, but Great Uncle Simon? No offense, Cousin Simon, but your grandfather was not a very nice person. Anyway, I spent most of that time in my room, but I did come downstairs once, on a little occasion. I was outside the kitchen door when I heard Minerva and that cute little maid Nancy talking.
What's the matter with you, girl? Have you left your mind in the other room? You haven't heard a word I said.
What? I'm sorry, I'm so confused.
About what? Has that no good scamp Jordan been bothering you?
Jordan? I mean, Mr. Starkweather? Why would you think that?
When I came in on the two of you in the living room, you were standing mighty close together, real lovey-dovey like. What was he saying to you?
I think he wanted me to
To do something you didn't want to do?
yes. But it's not what you're thinking.
I'll bet. He'd better stay away from you or I'll cut him down to size.
Minerva, no! He's not interested in me. I heard him talking with Miss Collins earlier.
I get the picture. When you lost your million, he lost interest in you, didn't he? He's chasing the money right to the Collins girl, isn't he?
He proposed to her, but she laughed at him.
Good for her. Serves him right, the lazy bum.
Don't call him that.
Ah, I get it. You're still hung up on him, aren't you? Don't be a fool, Nancy. Jordan would just use you and toss you aside like he's done a dozen other girls I know of.
Well, maybe he's ready to settle down. Mr. Starkweather had changed his will.
Then what?
Nothing. If we're through here, I'd like to go to my room.
Go on. Nancy,
Yes, ma'am?
lock your door.
Excuse me. That little scene in the foyer was a flashback. It showed a conversation Paula overheard before the murder occurred. The other characters' stories, well, portions of them, will be shown in flashbacks too. Isn't that clever? I just wanted to make sure you got that. That's all.
That woman is really asking for it.
So tell me, Mrs. Trent, did you observe anything suspicious earlier tonight before Mr. Starkweather was murdered?
Suspicious. Well, I suppose you'd call toting a gun around the house suspicious, even though Mr. Starkweather wasn't shot to death.
A gun? Who has a gun?
Besides me.
Paula Thompson, that too, claims she's a regular Annie Oakley. And she mentioned how easy it would be for someone to break in those French doors and kill Mr. Starkweather.
Did she now?
Ask her yourself.
Anything else?
Well, I did overhear a rather odd conversation between Rufus and Mrs. Starkweather. I had gone upstairs to distribute candles in case of a power outage, which turned out to be rather useful, as you know. I had just turned the corner into the west wing when I saw Rufus and Mrs. Starkweather near the end by the stairs.
Do I have enough? Oh, dear.
Mrs. Starkweather!
Rufus, you scared me out of your clothes.
That's okay, ma'am. At our age, we do our growing sideways, don't we?
Absolutely. Oh, God. What are you doing with the toast insect?
Hard for the guess what they ain't used.
What for?
Well, see, I ain't sleepy, so I thought I'd watch some TV. But Settlers all messed up. Color me. Everybody on every daggone channel's green. Harrison Ford's green, Holt's green, and even Johnny on Cusack screen. Looks like every station's starring Kermit the Frog.
Oh, this is nice.
It said that again, whatever it means. Well, them breath mints, I wouldn't mind if you. I can still taste the crowd from the nervous certain staff for supper.
These? Oh, no, your fits. You mustn't take any of these. They're from my heart. If you take any of these, they just kill you.
In that case, I'll pass. Better be careful with me not being lying around, though, so they can by accident kill us dead.
That's entirely possible.
Or we took another death certificate. Cause of death, bad breath.
It isn't a laughing matter. I need these pills, you see. I need every one of these.
Rufus had an axe in the house?
Yes, Mr. Simon. I had instructed him to chop some firewood earlier.
I'm surprised you trust him with an axe.
Personally, I wouldn't trust him with a butter knife. I was just simply relaying on Mr. Starkweather's instructions.
Was there anything else of interest you happened to notice?
Just one, sir. Earlier tonight, I was coming from the kitchen when I saw Mr. Jordan at the door to Mr. Starkweather's room. His behavior was somewhat furtive. I got the impression he was about to enter when the door opened, then Miss Withers came out. It was apparent her unexpected appearance startled Mr. Jordan.
What do you want?
I was just going to check on Great Uncle Simon.
That is what I am paid to do.
Well, how is he?
Still breathing, if that's what you wanted to know.
Do you think he'll make it through the night, Miss Withers?
I think Simon Starkweather will keep his heart beating through sheer determination long enough to sign that new bill. That is what you wanted to know, isn't it?
Why, Miss Withers, you misjudged me.
Give it a rest, Jordan. I know you would love to see him drop dead by daybreak, like nearly everyone else in this house.
Including you. $1 million is a fortune. A lot of people would kill for that much money.
If that's a hint, forget it. As Mr. Starkweather's nurse, I'd be the prime suspect if his death appeared to be anything but natural causes.
Suspecting and proving are two different things.
I'm going to forget you said that. Good night, Jordan. It's true. Jordan Starkweather did hint I'd be in a prime position to end his great-uncle's life in a way that would appear natural. I'm sure Benson has also informed you that I refused.
He did, but you could have changed your mind.
And murdered him with a blood pressure cuff. That would have been foolish. Hardly what you'd call natural causes.
I agree. The manner by which he was murdered makes no sense at all, whoever did it.
It's as if the killer was flaunting the deed in our faces.
Why would they do that?
That's a good question. Tell me, Miss Withers, if you had to pick a likely suspect to be our murderer, who would it be?
Off the record. That Thompson girl, his great niece, is too goody-goody for my taste. Although Southern girls can lay on the charm when they want to, but Scarlett O'Hara was pretty ruthless when you get down to it.
We have been told that Cousin Paula has a gun.
See what I mean? I dare say she and Jordan were desperate to get their hands on Mr. Starkweather's billions. I overheard them earlier this evening. It was shortly after Miss Van Zandt's announcement. They didn't see me in the corridor.
What can we do? It's out of our hands.
Don't be such a wimp, Jordan. That money rightfully belongs to us. There's got to be a way to get it.
I've got it. Maybe we could break the new will if we have him declared insane.
I've thought of that, but it won't work. If cloning was just some wild theory, we could. But it isn't. It's been done. His idea to be the first person to clone himself might be bizarre, but it isn't insane. We lose the case.
Yeah, and probably spend the pittance we're going to inherit on the lawyers.
Like that Miss Van Zandt. She...
What is it? What are you thinking?
I'm thinking, if you can't beat them, join them.
Huh?
I just came up with a way to get Miss Van Zandt to put me on her team.
What is it?
Fend for yourself, Jordan. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go talk to that lawyer.
If you can't beat them, well, yes, where would Kathy be?
It's true. Jordan did suggest we get married. It wasn't what you'd call a romantic proposal. It was more like a business proposition.
You were going to have access to billions. What did Jordan have to offer you?
Himself, I guess. In my opinion, that fortune hunter wouldn't be worth 2 cents.
Then you did turn him down.
Jordan is attractive in a smarmy sort of way, but any woman who married him would be a fool. Believe me, Mike, I am no fool.
I knew that from the time we started working together.
You were smart enough to volunteer to carry grandfather's clone.
Look, Simon, once Mr. Starkweather made up his mind to clone himself, nothing was going to change it. He would have found a surrogate mother somewhere, so it may as well have been me.
I understand. I guess I just think the whole idea is creepy.
You're a lot nicer about it than the other heirs were.
For example?
Paula, for one. She hadn't given up her hope on getting her hands on Mr. Starkweather's money.
How do you know?
I was in Lois's room with her when Paula knocked on her door. She asked Lois to come with her into the living room where she could speak to her privately. I wanted to know what was going on, so I followed and listened.
We're very busy, Miss Thompson.
Preparing that new will? Yes. Miss Van Zandt, you're a lawyer. Are you sure this cloning business is legal? You could lose your license in practice, couldn't you, if
The process will be performed in Belgium, as we told you. Our laws don't apply there.
But what about ethics? Haven't lawyers been disbarred before for behavior that was unethical, if not illegal?
What's your point?
I want it on the deal. You can pay me from that trust fund to be the baby's nanny or whatever. I don't care what you think of the position. And if you refuse, I shall be forced to report you to the Bar Association. Isn't that what you call it?
It is. Let me give you a little free legal advice, Miss Thompson. In the first place, if you make any accusations against me before the cloning procedure has been completed successfully, I'll sue you for the $50,000 you're due to receive, and everything else you owe, and I'll get it. In the second place, once the baby is on the way, I plan to close down my office. So at that point, it won't bother me in the least if I should be disbarred. You don't have to be a lawyer to administer an estate. Anyone can do it. So you see, young woman, your threats are meaningless. In fact, as an officer of the court, I should report your feeble attempt at extortion to the police.
I wasn't.
Save it. Take your silly southern self out of my sight, and I might be willing to forget it.
All right. I'll go. You lawyer!
Excuse me.
Yes, mister?
I found it was left with the Christmas candles I stored away. I thought it might be useful to pass them out in case of a power outage.
That's very thoughtful. Thank you. I'll take one for Kathy also.
Oh, all right. Now, I'm going to my room, because there's something there that I need to get.
What's the matter with her?
Let's just say she's a poor loser. She played her ace card, and I trumped it in a manner of speaking. I'll give this to Kathy.
If I remember correctly, when Kathy Collins saw Mr. Starkweather's body and screamed, you came in the front door. What had you been doing outside, Rufus?
Was I outside? Yep, I guess I was. I remember now. I bought a TV from the guest room because
We heard why, Rufus.
You did? News sure travels fast around here.
All the actors on your set were green.
Sure was. Looked like the Martians landed or something. Anyways, when I hooked up the new set, the picture didn't come in too good. Everybody was fuzzy as a woolly worm. I went outside to turn the antenna around.
On the roof?
Well, it wouldn't do too much good to put in the basement, would it? I was about to get the tall ladder out of the storage shed when I heard the gal holler bloody murder. Murder, even if it wasn't bloody.
Did you see or hear anything outside?
I saw an owl and heard a bunch of bullfrogs.
Meant humans.
I saw Jordan on the patio when I was coming in. Don't know what he was doing out there.
Earlier tonight, Rufus, did you hear anyone talking about the new will?
Who didn't? Benson, Ernst, and Minerva didn't talk about much else. They was going on about it before Mr. Starkweather croaked.
What were they saying?
That it ain't fair, that's what. They worked hard all these years for Mr. Starkweather, and they should have got their millions. Me? I didn't care too much. I figured $50,000 to buy me a big screen TV. I guess now it might even get me two.
Bensonhurst and Minerva?
Oh yeah. The more Minerva thought about it, the madder she got, and whoo, that woman's got a temper. She's about ready to storm into Mr. Starkweather's room and give him a piece of her mind.
You mustn't go in there, Minerva.
Who's going to stop me?
I shall, if necessary.
You and whose army?
I totally agree with you that we were wrong, but confrontation is not the answer.
Yeah? Then what is?
Have patience. Mr. Starkweather hasn't signed the will yet. Perhaps he'll change his mind by morning.
We should live so long.
No, Minerva. He should live so long.
So what were you doing outside about the time of the murder, Mr. Starkweather?
Just getting a fresh breath of air. Anything wrong with that?
Not if you remained outside.
What do you mean?
When I made a cursory examination of the crime scene, I noticed that Miss Withers had left the window raised a couple of inches to let in some of that fresh air. Anyone could have climbed in and...
Are you accusing me of killing Great Uncle Simon?
Calm down, Mr. Starkweather. I'm not accusing anybody. Yet.
Besides, from what we've been told, Cousin Jordan, it seems that trying to con someone else into doing your bidding is more your style.
Who told you that?
I'll ask the questions if you don't mind. I repeat, what were you doing outside?
If you must know, Kathy and I had a disagreement, and I blew up. I went outside to cool down. Well, have you heard about that already?
I question, you answer. Remember? Let me ask you this. If you didn't murder Mr. Starkweather, who do you think did?
Look, I'm not saying she did it, but have you talked to that little maid, Nancy?
Why her, Cousin Jordan?
The girl has a crush on me. I flirt with the ladies a lot, but I do nothing to lead her on. I knew she was upset about the new will, and she would lose her million, but not only that, but that I would lose even more. I had strolled around the house and was outside the kitchen door when I overheard Nancy talking to Miss Withers.
Can I do anything to help you, Miss Withers?
I just needed a pitcher of fresh water for Mr. Starkweather's bedside. I've got it.
That poor man. When he had that attack and lost his breath in the living room, I realized what you meant before when you said the sudden shock could prove to be fatal.
Exactly.
The slightest
to hear you'd inherit $1 million, and then immediately discover it was being taken away.
3 surprises, actually. Now you're wealthy again.
Oh, Mr. Starkweather, I was thrilled that your grandfather left me even $50,000. With that, I could go to college and get a good education, like you.
Now you can do anything you want, Nancy. What do you want to do?
I'm not sure. I haven't been thinking about myself much lately.
Who has been on your mind, Nancy? Jordan Starkweather, perhaps? You're very fond of him, aren't you?
Who told you that?
Jordan Starkweather himself, for one. He implied you might have even been willing to kill for him.
He said that? How could he say such a thing?
I'm sorry to hurt you, Nancy. But now you see what Jordan's really like. He's out for himself and he'll trample anyone who gets in his way.
I guess I knew that. Minerva tried to warn me. I even heard him propose to Miss Collins. She turned him down and then later laughed about it with her friend Miss Van Zant. I was taking fresh towels to the guest room when I overheard them talking. You think Jordan is cold-hearted? But Miss Collins is just as bad as he is.
Can you believe it? Those soulful gazes might work on some innocent young thing like that maid, Nancy, but he learned quick enough that I'm no pushover.
I wish I had been there to see it. It's time Jordan met his match. I could tell Nancy about some of the maids who worked here before her. His Playboy days will be over soon enough, though.
What do you mean?
Up until now, Mr. Starkweather has given Jordan, Fiona, Paula, and young Simon a generous allowance. Once Mr. Starkweather passes on, the $50,000 bequest will be the last they get of the Starkweather fortune. They'll have to learn what it's like to work for a living.
Simon's almost out of school. He'll do fine. But the others, they'll go through their money in no time. Then what kind of jobs can they get? Can you imagine Paula behind the desk of a car rental agency?
Or Jordan driving the cars out of the lot for the customers?
And what'll Fiona do? Sell Avon?
Can I get anything for you, Cousin Fiona? A glass of water, perhaps?
No, dear, I'm fine. Mr. Davis, I want to let you know my Jordan couldn't have done. Oh, dear. What was done to Uncle Simon? He was with me in my room all evening.
You know that can't be true, Mrs. Starkweather. Your son told us himself he went outside. And I saw you with Bensonhurst and Miss Withers.
Oh, right. Maybe that was last night. You sat next to me.
Maybe it was.
Now I know why Sherlock Holmes never believes suspects. It's so easy to get confused.
Concentrate on tonight, Mrs. Starkweather. Do you recall seeing anything suspicious?
Suspicious? Well, I saw Uncle Simon's body with that horrible thing around his neck. I call that suspicious.
What means before that, Cousin Fiona?
Before, I didn't know the sort of thing, but
Yes?
it was right after I told about the new will. It had all gone upstairs. I was going downstairs when I heard the secretary and the housekeeper in the living room. They were speaking quite loudly, but I couldn't help but overhear.
What have you been doing in my room, Mrs. Trent?
I checked all of the guest rooms to make sure that there were extra blankets in each of them. I suppose you're very pleased with yourself.
And what makes you say that?
It all worked out just as you planned.
I don't know what you mean.
I think you do. I understand now why you brought all those magazines in from town and left them lying about where Mr. Starkweather could see them. You've done it for months.
What magazines?
Those news magazines and scientific journals. I've seen them. They all had one thing in common. Articles about cloning. I didn't realize before, but now it's obvious what you were doing. You planted the idea in Mr. Starkweather's head to kill himself. Clone himself.
So what if I did? There are no laws against sharing ideas, are there?
I'm sure your lawyer friend would say no, but that doesn't mean it's right. I think what you're planning to do is hideous.
To be perfectly frank, I couldn't care less what you think. Stay out.
Starting to give orders already, are you? I'll leave, but remember one thing, young lady. You're not queen bee just yet, and you won't be until Mr. Starkweather's name is on the dotted line, assuming that ever happens.
Kathy told me about Mrs. Trent's accusations, that she engineered the cloning business, possibly with my help. Apparently, Mrs. Starkweather reported the conversation accurately, which is something of a surprise.
Is it true? Did you and Kathy give grandfather the idea to clone himself?
I don't really think that's relevant to the case at hand, Simon. But even if we did, we weren't breaking any laws. Don't you agree, Mr. Davis?
No laws that I can think of.
Then shouldn't we focus on the law that was broken? I'm referring to murder, of course.
You're right, as usual, Miss Van Zandt. Can you volunteer any information that might help us?
I will tell you this. Earlier this evening, I went to the kitchen to ask Minerva for a pot of coffee. It was apparent that Kathy and I were going to be up late working, and I thought the caffeine might help us stay awake. Minerva wasn't there, but Rufus was in the living room. He was talking to Fiona Starkweather. Their conversation was very peculiar.
Heavens, Rufus, what are you doing in the house?
Brought it from the toilet, dried it off good. Sharpened it up too, wanna see.
Goodness, no, put it away.
Maybe I better, before I hurt somebody, or even kill someone.
It's a horrible thought.
Ain't it though? I get those sometimes. You? It's usually like poison pills.
Dinnerpills isn't a Dinnerpills isn't a poison. It's a stimulant. You have to be sure to take too many.
You got a lot on the bottle when I saw you upstairs. Oops, hope you haven't gone and overdosed. I could probably figure out how to do that mouth-to-mouth stuff.
If you put those lips any closer, I'll snap that axe out of your hand and chop them off.
Just trying to help, Mrs. Starkweather.
Well, don't. There's some things worse than death. I assure you, however, that I'm fine. I spilled the pills earlier in the evening.
Oh, Minerva don't find none. She fixes Mr. Starkweather's meals and she's mighty mad at him right now.
What are you suggesting?
Oh, nothing. Was there something needed in the kitchen?
I want to see if Minerva has any of those delicious hors d'oeuvres left over.
I can look.
Never mind. I see her lost my appetite.
Mr. Starkweather's meals? What do you want to know about them?
Who did he dine with? Did he eat the same food as everyone else?
Mr. Starkweather was on a very strict diet. Low salt, low fat. So all of his meals had to be prepared separately. Why do you want to know? Do you think there's something wrong with my cooking?
You're a great cook, Minerva. The leg of lamb you served tonight was wonderful.
Yes, well, I'm often told I have terrific legs.
Sorry.
So what's the problem?
Forget it. You told me what I needed to know. Changing the subject. Do you remember who was in the kitchen when the circuit breaker tripped and the lights went out? Before I got there, I mean.
The blackout? I'm not sure. Let me think. I was in the pantry checking the supplies for breakfast. When the lights went out, it took me a moment to grab the candle Trent gave me from my pocket and light it.
Minerva, Nancy, is everyone all right?
I'm here now, fine. I was out back and I saw the lights go out.
I was in my room when it went dark. What's going on?
Professor forgot to pay the light bill.
I'll forget to pay your wages.
What in blazes is going on? I think the storm knocked out the electricity. See, the candles I gave out did come in handy. Remind me to give you a gold star later. Bensonhurst, can't you get the electricity back on?
That's exactly what I came to find out. Mr. Bensonhurst?
The circuit breaker's right over here.
I hope they hurry. I don't like
Stark. That quick enough for you? I'll get back to my chore.
Why did that idiot even come in here? He tracked water all over my clean floors.
Why Mr. Starkweather doesn't fire him, I'll never know.
Any luck?
Yeah, it was there all right. It should be enough to pinpoint our murderer, but I wish I had more. It could take weeks to get the results. If the will is probated and the killer gets his or her inheritance before then, they could disappear for good. You could buy a new identity easily enough for $1 million or more. There must be some way we can nab the guilty party tonight.
I was hoping we'd learn more from questioning the suspects.
Me too. They were so busy trying to make each other look guilty, they didn't reveal much about themselves. Sometimes the slave is... Simon, move your feet. I think it's... Yes. What they were doing was so insignificant, I barely noticed it at the time. Simon, I know who murdered your grandfather.
Who?
I'll tell everyone as soon as I gather the evidence. Quick, go tell Bensonhurst. I need to see everyone in here immediately.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, Minerva sent me in here to ask if you wanted a pot of coffee.
Never mind that. Go upstairs and tell everyone there to come down here on the double.
Yes, sir.
I don't think the police chief will mind if I use sandwich bags to gather evidence. I don't think he'll mind at all.
Well, he said he was going to tell us what happened, but I still don't understand.
Calm down, please. Take a seat.
It's very late, Mr. Davis. Or very early, depending on how you look at it. But if nobody else is going to ask, I will. Why did you call us together at this hour?
It has been a long evening, hasn't it? I'm sure you are all very tired. I know I am. But I thought you would all rest easier, knowing who murdered Simon Starkweather.
Come on.
You mean you discovered who killed Great Uncle Simon?
I'm pretty sure I have, as I'm going to show you in the next few minutes.
I'm amazed, Mike. How did you figure it out?
First, I had to find the answer to a question that had bothered me from the beginning. It would have been so easy to make it appear that Mr. Starkweather died of natural causes. A suggestion Jordan Starkweather made to Miss Withers.
I knew it.
For example, Mrs. Starkweather or her son could have given him some of her digitalis to trigger a heart attack.
I knew it.
So could several others among them, who were aware she had them, and left several on the floor of this room, no doubt, when she spilled them earlier tonight. Miss Withers could have achieved the same result by injecting an air bubble into his bloodstream with a hypodermic needle.
I knew it.
Once again, any of you could have stolen a needle from her room and done the same thing. Also, it's quite likely that many of you considered frightening the old man to death. Miss Thompson with her gun,
I knew it.
Bensonhurst with his wrench,
I knew it.
Minerva with her knife,
I knew it.
or Rufus with his axe.
Nah.
The possibilities are endless. Why then would the murderer choose to put a blood pressure cuff around the victim's neck and inflate it until he's strangled to death? The answer is so simple. I feel foolish for not realizing sooner what must have really happened.
Might want to ask what that is?
I'm glad you asked. Obviously, when the cuff was put on him, Mr. Starkweather was already dead.
Already dead.
Am I right, Miss Van Zandt?
What?
You really are very clever, Mr. Davis.
It had to have been you. We were in here together when the lights went out. Mr. Starkweather began to ring his bell. I went to find Bensonhurst, and he went to check on Mr. Starkweather. His killer must have murdered the man and slipped into Miss Withers' room seconds before you found the body.
I thought so too. Why would you put the blood pressure cuff around his neck? As our able detective here has surmised, the murderer made it appear that Mr. Starkweather had had a heart attack. Death seemed to have indeed been due to natural causes. However, there was no doubt in my mind that someone in this house had killed him. I wasn't about to let my employer's murderer get away scot-free. I noticed the blood pressure cuff on the table, so I put it around his neck and inflated it before wheeling him into this room.
Your plan worked, too. No one questioned the fact that he'd been murdered.
So, young Simon hired Mr. Davis to find the killer?
Which I had. That was very naughty of you, Miss Van Zandt. For a little while, your ploy distracted me from the main problem. Instead of focusing on who did it, I kept wondering why they did it that way. Once I solved that piece of the puzzle, the rest came easy.
I'm sorry, Mr. Davis, but if you have discovered the identity of the murderer, then the ends seem to have justified the means.
I imagine the police will agree, and might even overlook the fact that you're guilty of tampering with evidence at the crime scene.
If not, I'm on very good terms with the local judges.
Wait a minute. How do you know Miss Van Zandt didn't kill Great Uncle Simon herself?
No motive.
Yeah.
Don't keep us in suspense, Mike. Tell us who did kill Mr. Starkweather.
I'll do better than that. I'll show you. Bear with me.
What?
Stay seated. I imagine all of you still have the candles Mrs. Trent distributed earlier tonight to keep with you in case of a blackout. Take them out, please, and light them.
Ooh, isn't that nice? So Christmassy.
When I examined Mr. Starkweather's body, I found what I first thought were a few drops of blood on his bathrobe. On closer inspection, they turned out to be another substance entirely. I forgot about them for the moment. When I was interrogating you individually, I noticed one of you scraping one thumbnail against the other. At the time, I took this to be a nervous gesture. I guess you could say it was nerves triggered by guilt, as it turns out. I didn't realize the significance of that gesture until I recalled Minerva's testimony. She reminded me of those of you who gathered in the kitchen with candles when the lights went out. A few moments ago, I found these on the floor of the interrogation room, and I had the link I needed to identify the murderer. Thin scrapings of red tallow. Tallow from the killer's thumbnail. Tallow that matched the red drops on Mr. Starkweather's body. Tallow from the red candle the murderer was holding when she killed Simon Starkweather. Tallow from the one red candle among you which you are holding, Withers.
What? Trusted you!
There might have been other red candles.
There aren't. I remember thinking when we took them down after Christmas that we would need to buy more candles this year.
Is this all the evidence you have to offer the police? This candle?
No, Withers, I have better proof than that. I just examined Mr. Starkweather's body. As I was moving about the room, I glanced at everyone's hands. I noticed there are several very thin scratches on your wrist, made by Mr. Starkweather, no doubt, as he struggled for his life. I'll bet my reputation that these skin samples I was able to scrape from under his fingernails came from you. It'll be easy enough to prove. I've met quite a few experts on DNA testing during the last 6 months.
Bravo, Mr. Davis.
Well,
I don't suppose you'd consider cloning those scrapings and putting the new me in prison.
ha,
I didn't think so. Well, Miss Van Zandt, I guess my biggest mistake was trying to cross a lawyer. I may have caused you to lose access to Mr. Starkweather's billions, but you definitely got your revenge.
why don't you tell us what happened?
I might as well. You seem to have figured out most of it already. I was furious with Mr. Starkweather for building up our hopes and then crashing them to the ground. I thought a man that cruel didn't deserve to live. But I brought him his pitcher of water. He was sitting in his wheelchair where I left him, ringing that bell. He sets the pitcher down on his bedside table, gripped the arms of his wheelchair, and leaned right down into his face. I told him what he was planning to do was monstrous. I told him he didn't deserve to live. I told him I was going to kill him. And then I reached for his throat. He was terrified.
I'm terrified.
He reeled back in his chair and smashed into the bedside table. The impact sent the reading lamp crashing to the ground and the pitcher of water on top of it. When the water hit the lamp, it short-circuited and blew the circuit breaker.
So you didn't cause the blackout deliberately?
No, it nearly ruined everything. But I had the candle in my pocket. I managed to light it while I reached for the oxygen mask with the other. I clamped the mask down hard over his nose and mouth. He couldn't breathe, of course. He made a feeble attempt to fight back, but all he managed to do was make a few insignificant scrapings on my wrist, which you noticed. That then caused me to spill a few drops of wax on his robe. I don't know if he died from suffocation or a heart attack, but it was all over in seconds. The old man wasn't able to do much, but I guess it was enough to pin this murder on me.
And then?
I put the mask back on his wheelchair and slipped through the connecting door to my room. I took the brass candlestick from my bureau and struck myself on the head. Even the slightest impact can cause the scalp to bleed, and I needed a reason as to why I hadn't rushed in when he started ringing his bell. Then I slipped into the room behind Miss Van Zandt after she wheeled him into the living room.
I'm sure you were as shocked as everyone else when you saw the blood pressure cuff around Mr. Starkweather's neck.
I was, but what could I do? I would have loved to kill you too, but I didn't dare try, of course. Until now! Now I really don't have... Oh. Don't anybody
You don't want to do anything you might regret.
It's a little too late for that advice, Mr. Davis. Get over here, you're coming with me! Where can we go? The bridge is washed out. I know where the fallen tree is, Mr. Simon mentioned. Simon, throw your car keys on the table.
You'll never get away.
I think I might. All your cars are on this side of the stream. It will take you hours to walk to town. I'll be long gone by then.
What about me?
I would have committed the perfect murder if you hadn't interfered. What do you think I'm going to do with you?
Not a thing if I can help it.
Hold it right there.
You okay?
Burn me!
Considered a preview of the afterlife.
I always keep these with me. You never know when cuffs will come in handy. Let's have it.
Mike, remind me to pay you a big bonus.
No problem. Well, you're going to spend a long, long time behind bars. What do you have to say for yourself?
I feel faint. Has anyone seen my smelling salts?
message just came for you. They said it's urgent.
I'm sorry about this, but I'd better see what it's all about. It's from Mr. St. John. He says he's just come to from a drug-induced coma, and when he awoke, a solution to the play was crystal clear. Oh my, really? This is great, better than any of the other conclusions he came up with before. You simply must see it. It'll take me a few minutes to go over it with the cast, but I'm sure they can handle it. Oh my, really brilliant. Oh, I see some clues that have to go in the first act. Well, I guess we'll just have to do the whole play over again.